The BS Report is a free-flowing conversation that occasionally touches on mature subjects.
First of all,
This is the BS Report with Bill Simmons.
it might be cool, I don't know. And if it's not, I don't care.
The BS Report with Bill Simmons.
Bill Simmons works for ESPN. He's also named the sports guy, and he writes a comical sports column. He must be a popular dude.
The BS Report.
It's got a real dirty sound, like a rusty steak knife cutting through a well-aged steak.
Now.
Here's Bill Simmons.
Welcome to the BS Report, a hazy Monday here in Southern California. What a basketball weekend. I am probably going to save my thoughts either for something tomorrow, or a written thing, or something. I want to talk a little reality TV today, and it's been a while since we had our guest. The czar of reality TV is on the Subway Fresh Take Hotline right now. Dave Jacoby, what's happening?
Not much, man. A lot has happened since we last spoke. You
were in Thailand. You had like a seven-week honeymoon.
Yeah.
It might be the longest honeymoon in recorded history.
It was 2 weeks long.
It felt like 8. Hey, I thought you were going away for a week, and meanwhile, there's all this reality stuff. I had nobody to talk to. I had to bother my friends and my wife, but it wasn't the same, I'll be honest.
Yeah, it was nice coming home to, to 30 hours of programming to watch on the DVR. That was a nice win.
Well, let's talk about the big story first. So, probably a year ago, you and I discussed an idea for frenemies on the Real Road Rules Challenge. I forget who came up with it.
Even though it's not our idea, we're going to take credit for it anyway, right?
Oh, it was a reader idea. You're right.
Yeah.
It was a reader idea that I brought to you in the podcast. We both agreed that it was phenomenal. We talked about it. We talked about how it would work. And now word has trickled in that this is the idea for the new Real Road Rules Challenge. Highlight of your career?
It's up there. It's just really, really, it's nice to know that we've had some sort of effect on the formatting of this thing.
Yeah.
You know, it's really nice to know that they're listening. They're like, hey, that's not a bad idea. I'll use it. It's not even our idea, to be honest.
No. But I have no problem taking it and pretending it was mine.
I have a feeling they called it Rivals because they didn't want to be like too directly plagiarizing.
Is that what they're calling it?
Rivals, I believe, yes.
Yeah, so the original idea was that it would be 2-man teams, and basically 2 people that don't like each other would be forced to get along and compete for money together. And that's what they're doing. And some of the pairings are pretty phenomenal, including Adam and CT.
I'm excited about that one.
A long, violent history between the 2 of them, which are settled by the police more than once. Kenny and Wes. Another, not a violent history, but a really mean-spirited one. Johnny and Tyler, who have a little feud dating back to the Key West days, they're teamed up. Tyree and Davis, who hated each other in the Real World Denver season, if I vaguely remember. Yeah. And then let me go to the women first, then we'll come back. Laurel and Cara Maria, didn't they hate each other?
Yeah, they did. They did like a reality reunion thing where they kind of like argued.
Teresa and Camilla, they fought in the last one. Jen with 2 ends of Mandy, they almost got in a fight. Evelyn and Paula, they hate each other. Anise and Robin, they hate each other. All these people are teamed up. The best one, though, is going to be Leroy and Adam from this current Real World Las Vegas season. Leroy, one of my favorite Real World characters of all time.
Really?
Yeah, I love him.
I like him. I mean, I like him because I agree with him often. You know?
He's good. I think they had made a mistake over the last few years of they were pigeonholing certain stereotypes. Like, for instance, anytime they had the Boston guy on, he'd be kind of a drunk a-hole. Anytime they had the African-American male housemate, it was always seemed to be like totally outspoken and troublemaker guy. He's just a good dude. Like, he doesn't do like the stuff that Adam was pulling in the house and how destructive he was. I liked the way he handled it. He was just disgusted by him. He didn't want to deal with him. Didn't think he was redeemable. Wasn't buying all the BS that we always see with the Real World, where they'll excuse somebody's behavior the next day. Really stuck to his morals. I enjoyed it.
Well, I think he started out with like tolerance. Like one night, you know, he got a little crazy. But then when it comes like 5 days out of the week, your roommate comes home, gets carried home by security, and then starts destroying your house. It's like, all right, this needs to end, and I'm going to put an end to this.
It was great. He's really one of my favorites. And Adam, I think, how many episodes did he last? 6?
I don't know, 5 or 6.
One of the most
Fantastic,
memorable
though.
runs in the 22-year history of the show or whatever.
Easily top 5.
Hey, the
He's up
phone's
there with
ringing
Puck.
again. Great. Kept the streak alive.
Yeah, and then God, I can't wait. I'm sure he's going to show up to the challenge like, I'm changed. Like, my experience on the real world Vegas has really learned a lot. You know, I'm a Buddhist now. I'm sober. And then like 3 nights in, he's going to be like, you know, trying to stab somebody with a broken window.
Well, he's that kind of drunk and we all have that one friend who gets like this. Although my friends are now old, so I guess I don't. But I once did. But that one friend who just keeps going and going, and then all of a sudden you're looking and the lights are on, but nobody's home. But they're wide awake.
Yeah,
those are the most dangerous friends.
Yeah, and it always, like when he had his little buddies in from Maine, and they went out to the club, it seemed like his buddies were all fine. Yeah. It's like, I just feel like he's going out there and like consuming 3 times as much alcohol as everybody else.
Or it might be, you know, my theory with this stuff, I think some people just are allergic to alcohol, basically. You can have somebody that's drinking the same amount of alcohol as everybody else, but it hits them totally different. Some people just can't handle it.
He's got something like that going on. I mean, he's not a healthy drinker.
What was interesting was his buddies had clearly been through the rigors with him. Yeah, they knew how it went. They knew when he got to this point, they knew how to handle it. They're out. There's a hanging picture over there. Don't let him punch that. Yeah. Keep him away from women. He might punch somebody. Let's trap him this way.
Don't even let him in the kitchen where there's knives and glasses and such.
They didn't even run like the boxing one on him. They just triple teamed him.
Yeah, they're trying to downplay it. Like, no, he's fine. It's like he's speaking in tongues and he's trying to drink the toilet water. Like this guy's not fine. Do we have a straitjacket here?
He just got into a fist fight with a framed poster. Yeah. I don't think he's fine.
And he's screaming screaming about the female housemates. Oh, it was nuts. I mean, it was just nuts. I think he's got a very high upside for the challenge, for future in the challenge. He's got the right kind of psychosis for reality TV. Like, he's like self-involved, but he's got this like sober, calm, suave guy that comes out during the day, and then the drunken maniac banshee that comes out at night. Like, he's like a 5-tool reality star.
Well, we've mentioned this many times, but people ask me how I can still watch The Real World, and as you first pointed out, it's a feeder system for the 5th major professional sport, the Real World Road Rules Challenge.
It's like scouting.
Yeah, it's scouting. It's like the combines. I'm basically in Indianapolis timing people's 40-yard dashes. And both Adam and Leroy, I think it was pretty clear. We were talking with 2 high lottery picks from the first episode.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think they can work together. Like,
it's probably not going to work.
Leroy's going to take it super serious, and he's going to be, another 30 pounds of muscle, and Adam's going to show up like after a bender. It's going to fall apart early. They're like rookies, and you know how they do that whole like vote the rookies out thing every year.
Adam's not going to make any friends.
No.
I think in the house they're going to be gunning for him. He might be a short stay for him.
He'll trick a girl into liking him though.
I'd like to see he will, and he'll do the whole thing, which he's great at. The whole I'm not good with women. All that. It's very nice how he plays that.
Yeah, it's pretty good. My favorite part is in the interview. He's like, once she finds out I've been to juvie for 3 years, she's gonna like me even more. It's like, yeah, you're right.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, and he knows it too. Like, it's not like accidental. He's just waiting to play that card. Like, oh, I'm so troubled, man. Yeah, I got involved with some drugs and some.
It is great.
Bad scene.
I wish I had told people that I had been to juvie when I was 24.
It's not too late to start.
Saying that I went to prep school just didn't seem to have the same effect on women.
No.
The other thing with Adam in the challenge will be, and Leroy too, whether they step it up with the PEDs or not, which is something really the rookies don't totally understand. They have to go through it once.
Yeah, I mean, I think Leroy will be ready to go.
Leroy might not need him, you don't think, or you think he'll know?
I have no idea, but he's an athlete.
It's going to be great. The 2 of the better, really it reminds me of the Durant Odin draft. I think Adam is like Odin in that if you can just keep him on the court, you're talking about a potential Hall of Famer. Yeah. Leroy is like Durant.
Solid. You know you're going to get results. He doesn't have the same upside that Adam does, but you know he's going to be good. You know he's going to have a long, prosperous career.
You know he's going to be in this challenge for 7-8 years, And you know he's going to hook up with Jen with two ends. You can lock that in right now.
Oh, there's no question about it.
And she might even take him under her wing and protect him and try to carry him along, which would be interesting.
Oh, that's a great call.
Thank you. I was excited for that. I didn't see Nani. No, she didn't make the cut this year.
Because for this time you kind of have to have a rival to get in.
Right.
I'm really glad TJ's back hosting it though.
Yes, emotional. The emotional return of TJ Lavin. The thing with Nani, I do think she's also a lottery pick. She's not on the Durant Oden level, but has maybe the Al Horford of that draft.
Yeah.
Solid career, might make a couple All-Star teams. She's got the right mix of feisty when drunk, totally willing to have an actual fist fight with a guy, which I think you need.
Encourages that behavior.
Definitely not afraid to drink too much. Definitely not afraid to abandon whatever plan she had going into the show as soon as somebody looks at her romantically.
Yeah, I kind of feel like if your girlfriend ever comes to you and says, I'm going to go on the real world, what she's really saying is this isn't working out for us, we should break up. Yeah,
if you're the boyfriend in that scenario, your goal at that point is just to last long enough for the weekend when you get invited up and you get to play pool with the guy that she's hooking up with.
Is that really what you want, though?
But you know it's over at that point. So you're like, I just want to get to the point where I actually get on TV and I can get girls who have seen this season to feel bad for me that I dated such a tramp.
I like the sympathy play is good, too.
That's why the guy was so upset. He wasn't so upset that it was 6 years down the drain. He was upset that he never got the pool scene with Adam. Yeah. He'd been waiting for them to size each other up over a game of 8-ball.
I thought we were going to be together forever. I really thought that we could last through this 3 months of her being a reality TV star in Las Vegas.
It is so funny. I mean, they just go down the line. You know, if there's 3 girls in there, one of them has to have a boyfriend. It's just a rule.
Yeah, and they won't last, and the boyfriend won't last.
And it has to be a boyfriend that either is under 4 months or over 4 years. You never get anybody who's like, yeah, it's been a year and a half. It's really going well. You don't want that girl on the show.
No. She's not going to be on the show either.
Now,
I'm excited for this challenge. I think it's going to be good. I think the frenemies idea is going to work really well for them.
I can't remember. Have we talked about this show on a podcast or not?
What show?
Real World Denver. Or Real World Vegas, I'm sorry.
No, we have not.
Okay, so another fascinating subplot of this show is Dustin.
Oh, Frat Pad.
Or we call him Frat Pad. So Dustin, 23 or 24, immediately starts hooking up with one of the roommates, and as it turns out, was on a show called Frat Pad, which is a show that was it pay-per-view? Was it on a cable channel? You did the research on this because you're bizarre.
If you Google Frat Pad, you'll find out very quickly what the drive behind this program is.
It's not like a porn show, but it's
it's very much so.
Oh, it is.
Yeah. I wouldn't Google it at work. And I also wouldn't Google it from, like, a friend's computer or something like that. You're going to have to answer some strange line of questioning from your wife if she sees that you've been there.
Well, you had to Google it because you're the czar.
Yeah, man. I was
curious. Research this.
I was very curious. I was like, it's evident very early. It's essentially it's a bunch of attractive young men that hang out in the house nude constantly, and they're filmed.
This was originally developed for ESPN, but it actually fell out. They decided to the premise just didn't work for our audience. But yeah, so they're just like they're hanging out nude, they're playing video games nude, they're coming out of the shower a lot.
I didn't watch too much of it. It becomes pretty evident pretty early, sort of what the target audience is.
And Dustin, who is now on this Real World show, and immediately started hooking up one of the female roommates, and is really trying hard to pretend like he's a boy's boy and all that stuff, was on this show, Frat Pad.
Yeah.
Joe Mead.
Yes.
We can discuss this, right? This is relevant to the Real World season.
Oh, it's totally relevant.
Okay, good.
I sure hope we can discuss it.
All right, good. So Jacoby immediately named this person Frat Pad, and as he was telling me the whole story, was telling me how he knew it was trouble when you you Googled Frat Pad and a bunch of things came up that said this site might be malicious to your computer. It's like, uh-oh.
Yeah.
Dustin's up to stuff.
You open the site, and all of a sudden you've got 13 pop-up windows that are all trying to sell you something. You're like, oh, God.
Oh, boy.
This is terrible. Someone's got my credit card information, and they're buying flights to Singapore.
It's one thing to make a mistake that ends up online. It's another thing to make a mistake that ends up where you end up on malicious websites.
Yeah,
that's really the final frontier.
I can't wait until his frat pad experience comes out.
So my question is, because they need it to come out, it has to come out, but how would these guys ever know that this guy was on frat pad? He either has to mention this when he's drunk, or the producers will they just accidentally leave the website on the computer? How do they get it out that this guy was on frat pad?
I don't think they're going to have to do that. I think he's going to offer it up himself.
Oh, you think he'll get in the hot tub one night?
He will. It's just going to come out. But he had this great explanation for like why he went on it. It was like,
where'd you read it?
He said it on the show. He was like, oh, it was after high school and all my friends were going to college, and I just got a job modeling in frat pad. Like, all right.
It was a little more than modeling.
I'm sure there was a kitchen you could work in. I'm sure there's, you know what I mean? Like, I'm sure someone was hiring. You can drive pizzas around town. Like, there's a million things that you can do that don't involve,
being in a house with guys that are naked the whole day.
The entire time.
Not that there's anything wrong with it. It's just
no.
There's other jobs. You don't necessarily have to do that.
Yeah, and he also has some underlying instability mentally. Do you remember when they went on that like go-kart racing thing?
Yeah, he kind of lost his mind.
He just lost his mind over the morality of go-kart racing and the ethics and rules, and he was just screaming and smashing things. He turned completely Ricky Bobby over go-kart racing.
They might have thrown a no-hitter with the cast.
It's pretty good. I want to get a little more out of Naomi.
Which one's that one?
She's from the Bronx.
Oh, yeah.
She's sleeping with Leroy.
Yeah. Is she sleeping with Leroy, though?
Yeah. But just occasionally, just for fun.
No.
At one point, she had the quote to Leroy, "Leave me alone. I don't want to have sex with you."
So that means they are having sex.
Yeah. But she said it the same way, like no, I don't want another slice of pizza. I'm fine.
I'm all set with bacon. I'm on a diet.
Yeah, exactly.
How do you feel the Hard Rock Hotel and Casino has come off?
Well, here's the thing about the Hard Rock Hotel and Casino. Like when they had their little job there, and they met the marketing coordinator for the Hard Rock Hotel and Casino. Do you remember him? Like their boss?
Right.
He looks just like the marketing coordinator for Hard Rock Hotel and Casino should look. He's got lots of product in his hair. Yeah. He's just kind of got this, like, I used to be a party promoter, and I worked my way up to being a marketing coordinator guy. And they also clearly give them free bottles at Vanity Nightclub. And they have their own section there, which I think is a little extra. Like, they kind of kick the guy out for getting too drunk in their nightclub, but they're also giving him huge bottles of Grey Goose to drink for free every single night.
Yeah, it's not the real world when that's happening.
Yeah.
There's no situation in the real world when you're in your early 20s and working your way up that you just have a free section in the hottest Hard Rock nightclub every night.
Yeah.
That's suddenly not as real.
Yeah, and they never hang out at the pool because I don't think they can film there, which is like a big part of being at the Hard Rock. And they go to the same nightclub 5 nights out of the week. Like the only people that should be going to the same nightclub 5 nights out of the week should be getting a paycheck from it.
Well, that's the Jersey Shore thing, but they clearly had to deal with that.
Yeah, I mean it's a drag.
You know what makes this cast so great? It's like you just go down the line and everybody has a little history.
Yeah.
Adam spent 3 years in juvie, and then went turned his life around a little bit, went to college and all that. But I mean, the guy was in juvie for 3 years for a failed drug robbery. Dustin had the frat pad thing.
Mike's parents were in prison or something.
Yeah, Mike's parents had like a drug thing. Nani has the domestic violence past, et cetera, et cetera. But yeah, it's not a lot of cushy lifestyles in here.
No. Well, it's good. I mean, those people make good reality TV stars.
How do you feel about the whole concept of having a bowling alley involved in this season? Are you disappointed that we haven't really tapped fully into the potential of that yet?
I never understood how a bowling alley was sort of like the luxury sporting device to put inside your home. Like it takes up so much space. It's loud. It's got a really diminishing returns after like a couple nights playing it. You're like, all right, enough with the bowling. Like it seems like I'd much rather have a basketball hoop or dartboard or anything, some games.
Anything else you want to talk about before we move on?
I think my wife Joey had a good point with The Real World. And we noticed that one of the housemates was reading. And she said, I've never seen anybody read on reality TV before. Like, do you think they're just not interested in reading, or they're not allowed to read?
Well, what would you do to kill time? I mean, you can't.
That's what I'm saying. Like, you can't watch TV, you can't talk on the phone, you can't go on the internet. Like, I would just read a bunch of books.
Yeah, this really isn't the real world.
No.
Somebody should do a show based on the real world premise where it is the real world. I feel like there's an opening now. There's a window for that.
Yeah. No, there is. And that was how the real world started.
Let's move to Khloe and Lamar. Are you watching this one?
No, I've not seen Khloe and Lamar.
I have not watched it either, but they are on my DVR, and I feel like here's a guy who plays crunch time for a team that has a chance to be the fifth NBA team ever to do a three-peat. I feel like I need to watch this show.
Yeah.
As somebody who writes sports columns and does a sports podcast for a living, it seems like a relevant show in the whole pop culture world, sports pop culture world, right?
I mean, yeah, sure. I can't watch any of those Kardashian shows. They don't do it for me. They're so contrived and fake.
Molly Lambert, who's writing for my new website that's coming out this summer, she says Khloe is her favorite Kardashian by far. She says she's the only redeemable Kardashian. I've never watched that show, so I don't know whether that's true or not. Did you watch the other show?
Yeah, I mean, I watched the other one, Keeping Up or whatever, but it's like, I mean, saying she's your favorite Kardashian is like picking your favorite sort of like tortured device.
Your favorite dictator?
Yeah. It's just, like, you know, I definitely prefer Chinese water torture over the stretcher.
All right, well, let's move on to Survivor then. Yeah. Boston Rob.
One thing that you skipped over is we haven't talked about Jersey Shore.
All right, well, let's do that then.
The last one.
Then we'll go to Survivor.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's time to take a break from this show, I think.
Yes.
They killed the Golden Goose a little bit. I mean, it paid off with the ratings, but
that's kind of what I wanted to bring up. So the problem is that MTV, their ratings are so big and the sponsorships are so high, but clearly the show is not as good. You know, like the sort of the swell in the zeitgeist it's not there anymore. Like I think people care less, but they're just going to chase these numbers until they die. Like they're going to do spin-off shows with Pauly D.
I'm okay with the spin-off shows.
See, I think this is what you have to do. I think you have to realize that this cast is no longer the Jersey Shore cast.
Oh, so you're almost like the reasoning behind the Kendrick Perkins trade.
Yes. You have to it's allowing the Kendrick Perkins trade.
The problem is you might end up with Jeff Green
you
might end up with Jeff Green and the Ned Kristich. That's the problem. That's the danger.
Yeah, that would not be a very good reality.
Kristich played 4 minutes yesterday. Jeff Green, my dad texted me in this third quarter that Jeff Green, I didn't know this was possible, but Jeff Green is as terrified as Sheldon Williams was in Game 6 of the finals last year. Yeah. It's like, wow, we lost that trade. But
and I think what you do is you say, you guys are now something else. You have your own spin-off shows. You can be hosts on our reunions for the real Jersey Shore, whatever, but we need a brand new Jersey Shore cast. Right. That's the only thing that's going to save this thing. Because I was not that entertained throughout the entire last season, to be honest.
Well, because the Ronnie Sammy thing all of a sudden we were just missing a waiter returning somebody's glasses is how that plot was going.
Yeah.
And I think everybody's had enough with Ronnie and Sammy. I don't need to see either of them ever again. I'm okay with both.
And the roommates themselves can't stand their relationship.
Yeah.
And the viewers at home can't stand their relationship either.
It kind of ruined the season. I'm okay if I never see Snooki and Dina again. I'm seriously okay if I never see Snooki again.
I think you have to tear the whole thing down and build it up again.
I would like to see Pauly D again.
But he's got his own show. He's going to be.
That's it. It's good. I'll watch that show. That show's on my DVR.
You think so?
Yeah.
I don't know.
I'm in on Pauly D.
I'll give it a shot.
But they're sending the whole cast to Italy though.
Yeah, I know. I heard that the filming hasn't been going too well.
Is that true?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what's true. I read it on the internet. Everything on the internet is true, right?
Yeah, probably. Yeah, we saw it happen with the Osbournes. I mean, that's the blueprint.
Yeah.
You have the Golden Goose, you kill it.
You have to move on.
Get the ratings, you get all the money, and then you kind of keep killing it for 6 months too long, and then everybody rejects it, and then you move on.
Yeah.
Still disappointed they didn't do the Massachusetts version.
They will. All that stuff's still in play.
I mean, we've talked about this before. I can't remember what town or city did we decide would be the best city for this? Did we say Revere?
Yeah, I think it was Revere.
Okay. Let's make that happen.
It can't be too hard. I think there's something online called the North Shore already. But I don't know if it's serious or not.
Survivor. Boston Rob has now cemented his legacy as the greatest Survivor castmate of all time.
Without question.
Yeah. Unbelievable. To be able to have that kind of sway over a season when everybody knows you're the biggest threat. They got rid of the other one right away, Russell. And Boston Rob somehow is in control of this game. It's kind of unbelievable.
He's not just in control of the game. He's in control of everyone's mind who's there. It's like Koreshian, you know. It's like the Charles Manson or something. He's just owning everybody.
It is.
Like he told his entire team not to eat fish when they were eating fish.
Yeah.
You're starving in the middle of Nicaragua in the jungle. I'm eating the fish. I don't care what you say, Boston Rob.
How do you feel about Phillip? He's been polarizing.
I don't want to see him go. I mean, he's terrifying. Like, if Phillip was your next-door neighbor, I wouldn't sleep well at night.
Yeah.
Not that he's not a sweet, gentle fella, but there's just something in those eyes that's just crazy.
Yep.
Crazy.
Do you don't feel like he's playing that up?
No. I think he's crazy.
Not playing it up at all?
No. I'm right now, while he's not filming the show, he's walking around, wherever he lives, Eastern Michigan or wherever
Being
he
weird?
lives, and he's creeping people out in coffee shops, and people pull up next to him at red lights and look at him and then don't want to look at him again. He's scary, man. What was he? I love when they font him. They read like formal federal agent ?
Yeah.
Have you noticed that?
Oh yeah, it's the funniest running joke of the show.
Yeah, I mean, is this the man who's keeping our country safe?
How are you feeling about Redemption Island?
I really love Matt, the stony religious guy.
Yeah.
And he just wins every single one. I think he's really sort of like he's turned the whole concept on his head. It's not nearly as exciting as the producers expected it to be when they developed this wrinkle in the format.
I kind of like Matt's resilience.
Yeah.
I'm excited by it. You're not excited by it?
I'm very excited by Matt. I think it's good, but I think the producers wanted a lot more drama out of Redemption Island rather than like, oh, and then you go to this island, and you sleep, you spend one night with Matt, and then you lose to him the next day, and you go home.
Right.
I mean, he's literally won like every single one.
How do you feel about the female talent? Once again, the eye candy seemed to be coming up a little lacking this season.
Well, I'm enjoying it. I think it's interesting. One thing that I figured out this year is that Russell isn't nearly as good as I thought he was. There's a huge chink in Russell's armor. It's because he gets to the island, gets to his tribe, and then makes an alliance with the cute girls.
Yep.
Like that's his MO, and it's like he's not making sound decisions. Like he really kind of gets his judgment skewed by the females that he's playing the game with. We never
were doing you were away on your 9-week honeymoon. We never were able to talk about, for like about a week there was some real Charles Manson potential with Russell and those two girls he was with.
Yeah.
That were, because I'm a big Manson guy. I mean, I don't support what he did. I'm saying.
No, explain what that means.
I love the book.
You just make a statement like that. I'm a big Manson guy.
I'm a big man. Like I love the book. I love the 4-hour movie with Steve Railsback. It's one of my favorite TV movies. I watch it every time it's on. I've always been fascinated by the murders and just reading about
what fascinates you about Charles Manson?
Well, it basically ended the innocence of the 60s. Those murders. It moved everything into a whole other era. But what was fascinating was the kind of sway that he had over these, runaways and all this stuff, and the fact that like he really sold people on we're going to create this helter-skelter race war, and everybody's going to fight to the death, and we're going to come out like if you're at a cocktail party with somebody and they laid out this whole plan to you. So here's what's going to happen: we're going to kill some people. We're going to frame the blacks for it. The blacks and whites are going to fight. Everyone's going to kill each other, and we're going to emerge on top. And everybody was like, oh, great idea, Charlie.
Yeah.
That's going to work. It's an awesome idea.
Should we start tonight or tomorrow? Who are the people we're supposed to kill?
Not to make light of the murders, but it was really one of the most ridiculous plans anybody's ever hatched, at any point, like at a bar, if you're drunk, anything. But you know, when the whole thing with once the trial started happening, and he would have these little his girls, like he had the 4 or 5 girls, and they would try to disrupt the trials, and they were outside protesting, and 2 of them killed. They fully admitted it. They said they did it for him. And I just got a little bit of a vibe from the Survivor with Russell and those 2 girls. I felt like Russell eventually could have convinced them to kill people in the show.
Yeah, and eat them. Yeah,
and eat them and cook them, and it just reminded me of that. And it also made me think, like, he does have some Manson qualities. Like, they're both little. Russell's like, what is he, like 5'5"?
I can't tell.
Now, I'm not sure what his talents are. Like, Manson used to think he was like a good musician. I don't know. Russell is like a pathological liar, so is Manson. They reminded me of each other.
No, I'll buy that. And those, I find it interesting. And Boston Rob is doing the same thing too. Is that these like sort of younger, kind of attractive ladies are they own the sort of like subversive. Yes, I'm just following my leader role.
Yep.
You know what I mean? Like, they really like if you came on here to win $1 million, you know what I mean? Like, and it seems like they're just like, oh yeah, like, you know, he's the boss, I'll just do what they say, or don't touch his rice because he likes the sticky rice at the bottom, and they guard it like, you know, like it's the most important thing in the world. It's like, guys, you guys have just as much power in this game as he does.
He's brought a prison element to it.
Yeah.
He's in charge of the cell block. Nobody's quite exactly sure why, but nobody wants to mess with him.
Yeah, I mean, but Boston Rob can't win the game, right?
Well, his goal is obviously to carry Phillip until the very end. It seems like.
I hope he carries Phillip to the very end because I want more from Phillip.
People have finally figured out. They've been playing the show for 11 years, but people have finally figured out that your best chance is to carry at least one person that final 3 that everybody hates.
Yeah,
and that's a 50-50 coin flip with the other person. If you can get that third person in.
You carry, if you're a strong player, you carry the one person that you know everybody hates. They're out of it, the contention, and then your play is to say, well, this other person didn't play the game right. I might have pissed a couple of you off, but this other person's just been riding my coattails the whole time.
Yeah, you want to have the riding the coattails good person. Yeah.
But the under-the-radar person wins a lot.
Yeah, that's the thing. The way to really position it is to attach yourself to the mastermind who's going to do most of the dirty work. You're basically like his conciliary.
And the blood's on his hands.
Totally. I still want studs versus hotties. I still think that's the biggest rating Survivor ever gets.
I think you know what?
20 cast members.
They wouldn't be that blatant with it, but they would call it something along those.
Why not? Studs versus hotties. Why not? Who's protesting that title? Ugly people? Who are your protesters?
I don't know. I mean, studs versus hotties. I mean, just like the words alone sort of have like this 1998 feel to them.
All right, we'll come up with the 2011 version.
Yeah, I think something would work there.
Next, now, what's the other one we need to go to? You wanted to hit?
Oh, the
Bad Girls Club.
The Killing.
No, Bad Girls Club. You want to do a quick one? I'm not watching.
You're not missing much. It's become sort of like it's deteriorated it's deteriorated even further from Lord of the Flies for strippers.
Yeah.
Where it's like dangerous and it's really weird. And I feel all kinds of sympathy and strange emotions when I watch it. It's like it's kind of like the feeling when you're in like a really good scary movie and you're not having fun but you are having fun at the same time. That's kind of how I enjoy that show now. I'm
still angry at you for roping me into one season. I feel like it made me less of a person, less of a human being.
It just made you
disfigured me mentally.
It didn't make you less of a human being. It made you a worse human being.
It disfigured me mentally. Is what it did, and I can never go back.
Yeah.
The Celebrity Apprentice.
I don't watch that show.
I don't understand. You're the czar. Your job is to watch all of these shows. Do I need a new czar?
Feel free to find a new czar.
You're not watching Celebrity Apprentice or Khloe and Lamar.
I'm not watching Celebrity Apprentice or Khloe and Lamar.
You need to step it up. The honeymoon made you lazy.
No, it's got nothing to do with that. The Apprentice was fun for the first 2 seasons, and then they don't change the show enough. They think adding celebrities is going to, but Nene Leakes and Meatloaf do not a show make. You know what I mean? Like the whole the Apprentice is doing the same thing the Jersey Shore is doing. They're just not. They're not morphing enough. They're not changing to stay one step ahead of the taste of the audience. It's
American Idol?
Over and over and over. I try every year to watch American Idol, and I just can't. It's just bad.
I need a czar de ta.
It's bad singers singing. I'm sorry. I'm not interested in what the judges have to say. I'm not interested in their bad singing.
Yeah. This year was tough because the judges, now that we're in the final 12, the judges just have nothing to say. It's like 3 cheerleaders.
Yeah.
So you just listen to the song. You can watch the show in 20 minutes now, which I do. Watch it, bang through, watch the 3 singers that you might think have something interesting. Fast forward through every judge. The show's over in a heartbeat. It's my recommendation. Yeah. All right, let's talk The Killing, because you are, a lot of people don't know this, but you're the lead detective on the show. Not the redhead, the other one.
not the female.
Not the female.
The male dude.
This show's great. I love this show.
It's a good show. It's a good show.
Really good show.
I mean, it's basically somebody was like, remember Twin Peaks? I was like, yeah, Twin Peaks is great. Like, what if we did that on AMC, but we just took out all the weird?
Yeah.
You know, it's like we just kind of like dumbed down Twin Peaks. Did you watch Twin Peaks, right?
Of course.
I love that show. I thought that was one of the, but it was just too weird to be like a mainstream smash hit.
It went off the tracks.
Yeah.
I forget the exact episode, but it went off the tracks.
The Killing is a nice little watered down version of Twin Peaks.
Couple holes, like the lead female detective, it's kind of like a homeless man's Julianne Moore. I feel like they just could have had a better actress for that. I don't think she's good.
I think she's pretty good.
I don't like her.
I have more trouble with my role on that show.
Would you rip off Jacoby? Mutant Jacoby?
Yeah, Bizarre Jacoby. Jacoby's drug out on his little brother. The problem I have with that show is the very whole premise of like the lead detective's like, you know, it's like her last day at the office before she you know, moves down to San Francisco from Seattle, and like the boss comes by and is like drops a case on her desk. Like, it just wouldn't happen.
Right.
You know, like, just stay for a couple extra days. She'd be like, I've worked hundreds of murders. This one is not special. I'm going to leave town and carry on with my life. That's like the one thing.
Yeah, it is true.
They haven't really motivated her to stay enough in my mind.
The problem is that I don't think they could figure out a way to make her interesting. So the way I guess they decided was that she would be engaged, and that would be like a source of dramatic tension. But it's not interesting. Every time.
Not particularly.
If they're in the same scene together, that's when you go like take a quick pee.
Yeah.
You go like make some tea or something. I've
convinced myself that every single character on the show has done it and why they've done it. Every single character on the show.
Well, they threw not to do a spoiler alert, but let's do a spoiler alert. Episode 4 was last night. The teacher, suddenly his hat got thrown in the ring. I actually didn't expect that one.
Oh, no. See, that's the thing. Joey and I have run all the permutations of this. Like, the teacher is one of the main suspects because he was so not a suspect.
But I thought he was the first guy you thought might be a suspect, and it was so blatantly thrown out there that I thought I was like, I'm scratching that guy off. That was too obvious. But now they've roped me back in with him. Yeah. And they do weird things. Like, they make you think the mom did it for a second. You're like, what? Like, that can't be. What? There's a lot. There's a lot going on. I'm into it. I think it's a good show. It's a good new show. It's in that Sunday night slot that's empty right now. Yeah, and what we're finding is that if you have a good show on a Sunday night, the combo of that, people are just used to Sunday night shows. And they need that void filled. And I think that's a reason why The Killing made it. And I think, not The Killing, Walking Dead. Yep. It's just that's the established time slot. The thing that I think is really cool about the show is whenever they do these shows, and people have said this, I'm not the first guy to say this, but just you rarely see the impact on the family of the person who died. Yeah. And this show really hits the impact hard, and I think they've done a nice job with that. Like, it really makes you empathetic and makes you think. For sure. On TV and in movies, it's always about solving the murder, and it's the younger brothers really nail that home. Like all the scenes when the younger brothers are like, where's Rosie? Is Seattle becoming like the new cool place to shoot stuff? I don't know. I mean, Grey's Anatomy, the Twilight series, and then this. I think they always have the helicopter over the Needle. Oh yeah, of course. There's always that shot, and it's like the people who live in Seattle. It's like not that rainy there.
It's like really not. Like enough with the rain. It's overcast.
I think Portland's biggest problem is they haven't built some sort of tall landmark that a helicopter could fly around for a dramatic series.
Solid point.
They just need to build something long and straight that glows.
Yeah,
and they'll triple their Hollywood business. AMC, I think, is my new favorite channel.
They're good.
Their batting average is ridiculous. I mean, it's Pujols-esque, the run that they're on right now. And you think of all the hits and the misses that HBO has had.
And also, remember when FX kind of had their little moment in the sun with the shield and stuff, and then they just and Breaking Bad, and then they just kind of overdid it. They took too many shots.
Yeah,
and it diluted the brand somewhat. But AMC is very calculated about the shows they put out, and they're good shows. And
I think this show you could do a second season. I think you'd need a whole new cast, which is fine because everybody they had on this show, the only person I recognized was the politician is the abusive husband from that bad J-Lo movie that was the Sleeping with the Enemy ripoff.
Oh yeah, that was bad. And I think the mother, Mrs. Larson, is.
Oh, she was in Heat, right?
She's in True Blood, which you don't watch, which is great. It's a fantastic show that you gotta start watching.
I don't watch that show because I just thought that was a show for women. It's not.
It's great. If it's a show for women or not, I'm into it. I dig it.
Quick correction, Jacoby, you said Breaking Bad was FX. That's also AMC.
Oh, there you go.
Did you say Breaking Bad was FX?
I don't know what I'm talking about.
You don't watch Breaking Bad?
Joe Mead, big correction. Thank you.
That was an important one. Thank you, Joe Mead.
Yeah, he saved me like 17 mean tweets.
You'll get him anyway.
Yeah, sure. I'm sure.
Anything else?
No, man.
That's it.
Just loving life.
All right, let's bring in Jacoby's office mate, our resident film dork, Dan Silver. What's happening?
What's up, buddy?
Did we decide film dork, film geek? Was there a title you're happy with?
I'm happy with dork.
Film dork?
Yeah.
Movie dork?
Movie dork.
Movie dork. That's what it was.
There we go.
So, you were very excited for Scream 4. Yeah. You thought the intentions were good. You felt like they put some thought into this. I agreed with you. I felt like America was ready for another Scream movie. It had been a while. I think horror movies over any other genre are cyclical. People are in the mood, and if you hit them when they're in the right mood, it's just going to work. You were more fired up than anybody. You went to see it this weekend. You did not like it.
No, and I agree with you, and I just want to add one thing to that, which is the beauty of the first Scream was that it was made in a very self-referential, self-aware way that sort of within the genre and shined a light on all the bad stuff that was going on in horror. It was made like that, but it was very, very smart. And that's what I was hoping Scream 4 was going to be. I mean, you had Wes Craven doing it. You had Kevin Williamson writing it. I was like, these guys are just going to rip apart The Ring and Hostel and Saw, all this torture porn stuff. And ultimately what they did was none of that, and it was like there was no thought put into it, and a couple people just decided to make it to try to make money. It was absolutely awful.
It was worse than Scream 3?
It was worse than Scream 3. It's the worst of the series, and as I do before any sequel, I go back and rewatch all the originals before I go see it.
Yeah.
So Friday, Saturday, into my Sunday morning screening, I'd watched all of them. Scream 3 is very disappointing because of it's a little too extravagant, but as a film, as a concept, it actually is the perfect ending to the trilogy.
Can you remind me, because I saw it once and then I blocked it out of my head. I don't even remember what happened.
Okay, so Scream 3 basically is Stab, the movie that was made about the Woodsboro movies, now in its sequels. They're now making a sequel, and someone decides to start up these killings again based off of the script of one of these sequels. Sidney's in hiding, Dewey is one of the consultants on the film, and Gail is being Gail. And essentially what it is, it's Sidney comes out of hiding because the killer finds her, and it's a return to Woodsboro through this filming of the movie. So it's very meta, which is all about what the Scream movies are, which is a look at filmmaking through the making of a movie. Now, in concept, that's really good, and it does what trilogies are supposed to, which is it makes you look back at Scream 1 and Scream 2 in a very different way as a closed trilogy in a very different way. So basically, Scream 3 at the end is, well, the killer was the illegitimate son of Sidney's mother who felt bad because he didn't have a mother, and he was the one who ultimately told Billy and Stu in the first one about her affairs, which led to them basically killing all these people in Scream 1. So you find out the reason for all of this.
Right.
It's very cyclical. So as a concept, Scream 3 is good. Its execution is bad. That's why I think people don't look at it in a positive light.
So Scream 4, what can you give away without giving it away? Although it sounds like you're urging people not to see it.
No, I really don't think people should go see it at all. If you liked Screams 1 and 2 and you're okay with 3, I wouldn't go see this. Because the problem with this movie, without giving anything away, is it doesn't have that meta quality to it. If it is meta in any way, it's specifically there to just cover up who the killer was. It didn't know what it wanted to be. It didn't know if it wanted to be a reboot. It didn't know if it wanted to be a sequel. And the fact that it couldn't make that decision really didn't allow it to be as creative and winking as the first 3. And in the end, it's a very tired rehash of what you'd expect from a Scream movie and not what you'd expect from a movie that was trying to make a comment on a genre.
How did Neve Campbell look, though?
She looked good. She aged well. And
nice.
So did Courtney Cox. She's great. I mean, anybody who watches Cougar Town knows she looks great. But it really, why I love the Scream movies is, as a lover of horror films so much, Scream was the movie that made people respect the genre again. It made them want to go out and understand more about horror movies. It made them go out and try to rent Last House on the Left or Peeping Tom. And it just said, okay, all of this stuff before it that's just there to make money, let's disregard that. And that's what I was hoping Scream 4 was going to be, and it's just a rehash.
Well, they really played up how excited they were about how original it was.
Yeah, and
which makes it even worse, I think. I read the whole Entertainment Weekly feature about it, and Kevin Williams had made it seem like, he had this aha moment when he figured out how to do it. And I don't know. Obviously, he didn't figure it out. I want to follow up on one thing you said about sequels.
Yeah.
So your theory is that if a sequel is done correctly, it also makes you reconsider what you thought about the first movie.
In a trilogy.
In a trilogy, okay.
As a third part to a trilogy, I mean, it's even stated in Scream 3, and I absolutely believe it, that a third part to a closed trilogy makes you look back at the first couple films, the first 2 films, and makes you look at them differently. It's like in in Return of the Jedi, Leia's the sister, and Darth wasn't that bad of a guy. He still had good in him. Trying to think of other, forget.
Well, because I was thinking, like, here's my example of a sequel that changed the first movie for me to the point that it really makes me physically angry when I think of the sequel.
Okay.
48 Hours.
Yeah.
They make another 48 Hours, and they decide the big wrinkle is going to be the Iceman. Who is this Iceman? And, it turns out it's Nick Nolte's former cop buddy. But now when I watch 48 Hours, and it's terrible. The sequel to 48 Hours is indefensible, and all coppers should be destroyed. Eddie Murphy's fat. He looks terrible. It's a dumb movie. It makes no sense. But it makes you rewatch the original 48 Hours, which is one of the classic buddy cop movies of all time. And any scene that Keogh's in, you're thinking like, but wait, it's almost like they never knew that people were going to be able to watch 48 Hours, the first one, on DVD, or they never saw that era coming, because it makes no sense that this guy would have been the bad guy if you watched the first movie. Like, he's helping Nick Nolte in the first movie.
Well, I mean, there are certain sequels that are made to just make money. I mean, you obviously...
And that was one.
That was definitely one, and it's really unfortunate. Like, you just need to disregard it. I again, going back to Scream, what's interesting is the first one was made in 96 and the second one was made in 97, so I obviously rushed into it. But there was a lot of thought put into it with a lot of reverence to the original. Now, a lot of people have problems with Scream 3. Maybe it was because it was made 3 years later And Kevin Williamson, the creator, was worrying about Dawson's Creek at that time, and they had to bring in another writer.
Yeah.
I mean, very similar to what a lot of people are talking about with the fourth one. And I'm sure I don't have it in front of me, but that's probably what happened with the second 48 Hours, which is, let's just get this in there. We've got Eddie, we've got Nick, and we can make some money.
The best example of a sequel for what I want from a sequel is Beverly Hills Cop 2.
Yeah.
It was basically you brought the gang back together, same setting, different story, executed well. Everybody got to do their thing. They, the Taggart and I forget Judge Reinhold's name in the movie.
Billy.
Billy. Taggart and Billy, they kind of go to another level. They're funnier. We get to spend a little more time with them. It's everything you want from a sequel.
Yeah, and there were subtle changes that you completely believed, like the idea of Billy being this Rambo-type dude after experiencing what he experienced with Axel the first time. You completely bought into that.
It was great. And they kept the streak alive of Eddie never made a run at anybody romantically.
Right.
I've written about this in mailbags, but there's possible. Axel Foley might have been a closeted gay.
Wouldn't that make those movies more interesting, especially if it was in L.A.?
That's another one where you watch Beverly Hills Cop 1 again, and he's got Lisa, what was her name, Reicherbacher? What was her name?
I don't remember.
Reichback, whatever. Yeah. His friend, his female friend, she's lying on his bed in the hotel. He doesn't make a move.
Well, it does help him. I mean, it does justify a little bit the relationship with Serge.
Oh, yeah. That's a good point. I didn't think of that. But to me, that's a great example of how a sequel goes. And I think going back to your trilogy example, I still think Godfather 3 is the worst example of how it goes.
Yeah, it's hard to talk about it with Coppola because Coppola, he doesn't care about number 1, number 2, number 3. For him, it was, I just want to tell a story. It's a little bit different when you start getting into Coppola because I don't think he was ever in it really for the money. Now, I'm sure I'm going to get killed for that. A lot of people are like, sure, Godfather 3 was only made for the money.
Yeah.
But in his mind, it felt like he had a final chapter to Michael's story.
Yeah, but the problem was the story that he wanted to tell once Robert Duvall decided they couldn't afford him or whatever happened, he kind of rewrote the story on the fly.
Oh, I absolutely 100%. Robert Duvall is the all-star of 1 and 2 for sure.
What do you mean?
Tommy's my favorite character.
What?
Yeah, man. I love Tommy. The adopted son in that family, it's so cool.
Well, I have the renegade opinion that Michael Corleone was the best character, but what do
I think a lot of people feel that way. I was always a Tommy fan. I love the way that Robert Duvall played that role, and even as a teenager when I saw that movie, I was like, where's Tommy?
Yeah.
And they made I don't even remember what the excuse was. It was a terrible excuse why he wasn't in it.
They couldn't pay him enough. I think he wanted.
No, didn't they make an excuse in the movie why he wasn't in it?
I don't remember, but I think my feeling on this, he'd probably never say it, but he probably smelled a stinker.
Probably.
And was probably like, I'll do this, but you have to pay me $5 million. I think it was $5 million, which was a ton of money at the time.
Well,
so they rewrote that whole role. Yeah.
Good for him, because at this point, we've seen clearly that Pacino will do anything as long as you put a check in front of him.
And then the other issue was it was supposed to be Winona Ryder as the daughter, and she bowed out from quote-unquote exhaustion, which we now know means something else now that we've heard that excuse one too many times. And Coppola threw his daughter in there and became the legendary worst acting performance probably of that generation.
Yeah.
There seemed to be a lot of signs telling Coppola not to make that movie when he did. Even the fact that Pacino wasn't quite old enough to play Michael Corleone at that point.
Yeah.
They had to make him look older.
The Godfather 3 is going to be a movie that's going to be talked about forever. Now, I'm a lover of sequels. I really don't mind them, and I don't mind them when they're done well. I'm willing to suspend a lot of disbelief to hang out again with certain characters or see certain stories. Like a lot of people are killing the trailer for The Hangover 2 because it's too similar to what the first one is. Now, I'm sure there's more to it, but I kind of just want to hang out with those guys again for an hour and a half.
Right. Most disappointed you've ever been in the theater walking out of a sequel?
Scream 4. I'm not kidding.
Really?
I was so personally offended by, this movie. I mean, I walked out of Terminator Salvation pissed because I thought that there was another opportunity to revive a genre. I walked out of Wolverine pissed because I felt like they missed it. I am such there's so many different reasons why I love the Scream genre. Mostly because I'm the guy who went to film school loving horror movies, and just saying, okay, horror movies are the genre where real visual storytelling is done, because you need to frame it right, you need to light it right, the sound needs to be there. It's not about dialogue. That's why guys like Danny Boyle and Peter Jackson and Sam Raimi, all these guys which are making gazillions of dollars on their movies now, started in horror movies. Oliver Stone, even Scorsese and Polanski went back to making horror movies. So Scream 1 opened my eyes. I was like, okay, this can really be a mass appeal type of genre again. And I was really hoping that Scream 4 was going to do that. And I
would have thought you would have said Matrix 3 or Matrix 2.
I didn't mind the Matrix 2 because there were some good sequences. Anyone who knows me knows that I'm an apologist for hard work.
Yeah.
And that the sequence on the highway, although ridiculous, was kind of cool. But I mean, I'm not even going to talk about the Star Wars movies. I mean, those are, I don't even consider Episode 1, 2, and 3 real movies.
All right, my number one is Godfather 3.
Godfather 3.
Because I went with my stepdad, and it was like the deal or no deal when you lose the $1 million suitcase.
Yeah.
And the guy's like, it's okay, it's gonna be all right. Like, that was his attitude when we were leaving the theater. Like, he was trying to salvage what had just happened. And it did have some good, but deep down we both knew we had witnessed the tarnishing of the legacy.
Oh yeah, I mean, if you love the originals that much, you're always going to try to be an apologist for it and find reasons why you liked it. It was like when I walked out of the Lost World in Jurassic Park, I was like, oh, it's not that bad, There's some good stuff, and then you saw it again, you're like, wait, that was awful.
I did the same with Another 48 Hours.
Yeah.
Fletch 2, remember being really
Fletch
super disappointed.
Liz, God.
The number 2 most disappointed, this might even surpass Godfather 3, was Rocky 5. Just because I built a whole weekend. I drove up to see my buddy Jim Grady in upstate New York. He was going to Colgate. We were all fired up that there was going to be this 5th Rocky movie, and it was so bad, and we knew right away. Rocky 5 was the first movie that I actually saw of the series in the theater. Yeah.
So it has a nice warm spot in my heart.
Halloween 3 was really awful, but I knew it was going to be awful.
But it's hard to talk about horror sequels because once you make the money, like they tried with Halloween 2, they just couldn't get Jamie Lee Curtis. By the way, the references in Scream 4 are terrible, whereas the references to Psycho throughout the series are great. The reference to Psycho in the 4th one is awful. They tried to do a Halloween 2 reference, and it just is absolutely laughable.
I have 3 most indefensible sequels ever.
Okay.
The first one is Caddyshack 2.
Okay.
I can't believe they made it.
Even though they got Dan Aykroyd?
I just can't believe they made it. It really makes me angry that they even decided to go there. You just let that one go.
Right.
That's number 1. Hold on, I was looking at...
I'll give you one more that disappointed me, Spider-Man 3, because the second one is so good.
I like that.
It seemed like they forced Raimi into just making just pack as many bad guys in there as possible. That one really disappointed me.
The second one for me is The Second Weekend at Bernie's. When you really take a look at that movie and what happened there.
Is that the one where he comes back to life?
It's unbelievable. It really needs to be studied. And you mentioned you went to film school. This movie should be studied in film school for what not to do. It's just, he's been dead for 3 days. At that point, you're starting to rot, right? When people smell you, you're a dead body.
Yeah. Oh, that's right. And he hears the music, and then
he hears the music, and it's so indefensible. And then the number 3 indefensible was Ocean's 12, which was just so clearly, it was so artsy-fartsy and so clearly let's just rip off people and they'll think this is going to be good. We know we don't have a story for this. At least with Ocean's 13, they tried.
Yep.
Ocean's 12 was just we'll go to Europe. It'll be an excuse for us to all hang out in Europe. We'll get to go out every night. and we'll make a movie, and who cares?
Is it going to be a
good or not.
surprise to you that that's my favorite one of the series?
No.
It is.
The Movie Dork strikes again.
I love that one, and for all of the reasons that you didn't like it, which is those guys hanging out in Europe and all that, I like it because, again, you just want to hang out with those guys. It also has one of the more interesting endings, which is a big elaborate heist, and then you ultimately find out that the real heist was just a very simple sleight of hand on a train. And I love things like that just go against expectations.
Well, I finally found the one person who can defend Ocean's 12.
It also has a better soundtrack. I like David Holmes as a composer, and I think it's his best work.
Did you see Jerry Weintraub's documentary?
I did. I
watched it last night.
I really liked it.
It was great. For a guy who really didn't make that many memorable movies, they still pulled it off like this was like this icon of the Hollywood industry.
I know, but again, if you want to just hang out with a dude, that's a dude you want to hang out with.
Well, he had the Elvis Sinatra really pushed over the top. I also forgot like how popular John Denver was once upon a time.
See, I never knew that about John Denver. Yeah. I learned that from that movie, but the Elvis stories in that movie are amazing.
And the stuff about like his wife, but then he had another girl and
who worked for him at his defunct production company.
And they're friends, and I highly recommend for anybody listening the Jerry Weintraub documentary. I think it's called His Way.
His Way. It's on HBO On Demand. And if you want more stories, because I was fascinated by him just when I found out who he was and that he's in the Ocean's movies and things like that.
There's a book, right?
Yeah, I read the book. The book is great, too.
Okay. Excellent. And last thing, you watching The Killing?
I love The Killing.
All right. Jacoby and I just talked about it, but I just want to make sure.
Oh, so you talked to the detective?
Yeah. He do his alter ego. Now he's claiming it's his drug-addled younger brother, but
I'm not surprised. It's a really good show. I'm a big supporter of it. That and Justified are the big ones for me.
Jacoby did not like my theory that the lead actress was a homeless man's Julianne Moore. He took that personally.
Really?
Yeah. I don't think she brings anything to the table. I think it's a difference between I'm playing a character that I'm trying to make it really hard for people to read to I just can't act.
Well,
and that's where I stand with her.
I'm going to vouch for her very quickly because she was on Big Love, and unless she actually does have a twin sister, she played twins on Big Love.
Right.
And she was very good on Big Love, very reserved. I understand why they casted her, but the thing that amazes me about The Killing is that Michelle Forbes, the mother of Casey, has the hardest role on TV right now.
Really?
Every day on that set, she has to come to work and be devastated. That is a hard thing to do 7 days a week for like 12-hour days.
I totally agree. And I said to Jacoby, I like the impact of I like how they've handled the impact on the family because you never see that on a television show anymore.
Yeah.
They rarely go there.
No.
And she probably gets at least nominated, I think, that actress.
I really hope so, but
I think the dad gets nominated too, potentially.
Well, Brent Sexton is awesome. As an actor, he's great. He's been in a bunch of little things, and he's never been recognized. This is one of those shows, though, that you really hope people recognize, but when it comes time to these award shows, things that don't deserve it get recognized. But this is a really, really well-made show.
I agree. I really like it. All right, The Movie Dork, Dan Silver. Thank you.
Thanks, buddy.
So I get to sign off. Whoa!
Thank you for downloading the BS Report with Bill Simmons.
Too much fun.
Check out more podcasts at the iTunes Music Store or at PodCenter at ESPNRadio.com.
Peace out.